See how low the tide is? Usually the water is up to here. I was out here a few days ago, and there was this thing in the sand when I was walking up, and I felt like I was supposed to get it. And I looked at it, and I like kicked it with my shoe. This is what it is. And I was like, it's like, I thought it was something plastic. So it wasn't right here in the wet sand, it was in the dry sand. And so I'm trying to show you what it is. It's a cactus fruit of some sort, because I see the like prickly pear, whatever they're called. I see but it's like almost been dehydrated by like being in the sand. It was in the dry sand. I'm sure there's dogs and stuff that have poked their nose at it, but it was like this color was up, and it was in the sand, kind of buried down like a little bit, and I could see it, part of it. So the other day I'm like, I felt like I was supposed to get it, and I was like, why? It's like a piece of junk, it's a piece of plastic, because I thought there's nothing this color that belongs out here. So I kicked at it and I didn't pick it up, and here it is today in the same place when I was walking up the path. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to be eating this? How many dogs have walked on this? Or what is it? What's the reason? So anyway, I think it's a prickly pear. But this is my favorite spot. Excuse me. And the tide is quite low, and I wish it was just a little bit warmer or more solidly for a few days, and I would go in the water. I do come out here in the fall and get in the water with like leggings and long sleeve like exercise kind of wear. And this is my favorite little spot here. So from the water, just like a few feet away, and it's just a bunch of like pampas type of grass, and there's this little spot here that I will sit, and it's just beautiful, very peaceful. There are several big birds. There's at least a heron, or maybe it's a pelican. No, I'm sure there's a heron too, but there's definitely a pelican that lives here. And when I come and I go in the water, if the tide is like high and the current is pretty good, I can lay on my back starting here, and I'll end up all the way down. It's a little scary how far down I can end up in just about a minute or two if I just close my eyes and I'm in my own little world, which I like to be. And I'm always thinking whether my eyes are closed or open. So but that's safer at least than ending up that way where it's gonna get deeper. Out here it's really not too deep. On the other side of that landing over there, that is sometimes covered with water, the whole thing. And on the other side of that it will be deep enough that you can swim, you know, and like, so I'm about 5'9", so I guess it's probably about 6 foot over there when the tide is more full, more high. There's a lot of birds out. I guess they're finding yummy things to eat. And I'm here by myself, which in the summer, or even in the autumn on a warmer day, when I'm here by myself, I really count it like a treasure. It's amazing how a camera of course this is just my phone, but any camera, how a camera just does not do justice to what your eyes are actually beholding in person. At least that's what I think. I mean, I guess for a magazine picture with a really good camera, I mean, I get good pictures sometimes, but I try to encourage myself that it's that way with me too, because I think I might look a lot better than some of my pictures do. And maybe that's true because, like the sun right now, the sun and the sky, with my eyes is so much more beautiful than I'm capturing here on the camera, if that makes any sense. So, this is my favorite spot. Oh, it looks like somebody left their shoes there. Probably a mom or dad didn't want to deal with them being muddy. Kind of silly sometimes how us parents can be. I've definitely been the overprotective and overcautious type. When I was here a few days ago, there was a mom and I think it was a girl. And I mean, she was 10 or 7 or something. And when they were walking up, the mom was like telling the child to not go. It wasn't a little kid. It wasn't like a 3-year-old, but telling them not to go in this muddy area with their shoes. And I just kind of, it was cooler. So today is actually nice enough. You could actually go out there without your shoes on, but at least in the mud. But I was kind of like, why, Mom? That's what I wanted to say. Why, Mom? That would be the fun part, you know? So I'm very much a free spirit, but I'm a free spirit who has spent a long time, considering that I'm 46, a long time not being free, being a bound up spirit that wanted to be free, and that was naturally inclined to be very like a child in a lot of ways, not curious, and that's what I mean, like curious and creative. I don't think children are stupid, but I don't mean like childlike in a negative way. I just mean, I think it's our inner child that is where we kind of tap into for our creativity, and like I'm getting ready to write some more poetry. I've already written 3 today when I was at home sitting outside, but this spot was calling to me, and the weather is just so nice today. And the fact that I'm here by myself is just so nice. But I had to pull my camera out again because the birds are just so, especially the one that I first started filming this time, he was just like doop doop de doo. And I was like, I see, bud. It's not that I haven't ever seen birds. Of course, I see them all the time. It's the wonder of, the way that they're communicating with each other, or just what they're interested in as they're like snooping about. Apparently they like the low tide. I just think there must be more grubs or more something that they like to eat. There were some robins, I think they were robins, being really noisy when I was trying to write earlier at the house, and they definitely drew my attention. I actually kind of included them, inspired to put some of that in the poem this morning. I miss my kids, and I do believe that I will have them eventually, but I guess after so many years of not really having downtime hardly, and I guess I feel like the time I've had by myself that I've never had before, whether I'm going out to karaoke or I'm just sitting out here, it's kind of, I almost feel like in a way it's Spirit's way of kind of like, I want to say repaying me, but like, kind of like making up for lost time. Like I have not had time to myself. Not in a, I don't mean in a way of like, I didn't want to take care of the kids. I mean just kind of like that, the self-care. I used to think self-care was selfish. Which, I know that sounds so ridiculous now. But some of the circles that I was in were just so much, I just got more and more fanatical as time went on, trying to quote, as the Bible says in 1 Peter 3, win your lost spouse by your meek and quiet conversation. And if y'all know me at all, I am just not that. That's just not me. And even when I went as far as, no makeup and uncut hair and homemade dresses down to my ankles and all of that, I still had questions. And that goes back to being curious. But I think when we have questions, especially when it comes to things like religion and dogma, that, we shouldn't be, and we shouldn't do that to our kids either. We should not silence people's curiosity and people's authentic, sincere questions, I always appreciated in school when I had teachers that didn't get mad if you had a question. And then the other teachers acted like you were so dumb. And they did make you feel almost like shaming you. And I don't mean acting like a class clown and trying to say something ridiculous, Anything that comes from a heart that is seeking for truth should not be silenced. And I think naturally, from when we're, first here as a child, a young child, who can maybe, get around, even babies though, but let's say a young child, there's this natural built-in curiosity until a harsh parent or, harsh adults usually, or maybe if you're talking about a middle school or even upper elementary school child, like when children start bullying. I was definitely bullied pretty severely actually. And those things just kind of tear down at your personhood. And they made fun of my last name, which is, I'm not going to say what it was, but it was something I couldn't help. And I think that's one reason when, you know, when I get the divorce final, I could change my last name back. But I'm like, no, thank you. I think I'll keep this one until I get remarried. And some of those things that we get bullied about, whether it's our looks or our name or, you know, a combination of things, that stuff really can like stick with you, even when you have tried to like be aware and work through it. Like being called fat or ugly or being made fun of because you have pimples, or any of those kind of things. Like when people tear you down, it's, you know, even when it's like, you know, 20 or 30 years later, even if you know that, like, I do think to myself as an adult, well, you know, yeah, you had pretty bad pimples when you were, you know, in middle school, but you have very clear skin as an adult, pretty much my whole adult life. And, you know, I think sometimes people who don't have pimples, really, when they're a teen, are the ones that we see as adults have them. Now, some of that is, you know, just maybe like a hormone imbalance or something like that. But, you know, the way people tear down other people, and I have been a harsh person, like not overall, but I have been hard on, I would say especially like my older kids that are grown. I was so, not really like a drill sergeant, but just because I've always been creative and I've always like, I taught them how to sew and I taught them how to draw and I encouraged them in like artsy things. But there was this side of me that, like, you know, maybe I thought the house needed to be a certain kind of cleanliness, or maybe they weren't doing something fast enough or well enough. And I was harsh, and I regret that, because it really does, I think, hurt their little spirits, you know. And I think any of us, if we're in tune with like our inner child, or just like who we really are on the inside, is all I mean by that. You know, even if you have like a boss, like I haven't been able to get a job recently, and I have thought about, well, you know, maybe you could try somewhere that wouldn't be where you really would want to work, you know, and maybe you could get a job like, I don't know, maybe at Food Lion or something, or maybe at 7-Eleven or somewhere I really wouldn't want to work. And then I've thought, yeah, maybe, and, you know, I might end up with like a boss that's like just a real bitch or something, you know, and I want to find work, but I don't mean to be like everyone should have the luxury. I mean, we need, obviously, I do really want to find employment. I just want it to be something that isn't complete drudgery, and but my point is, you know, like, I don't want to lose my peace or have my all of the healing. I don't think it could all be undone, but you know what I mean, as far as like just being like a toxic environment. Even when I go out to karaoke and stuff, like there definitely are people, and we can't avoid, you know, going places. I'm not saying that, but you know, it's like there are people who just don't respect other people, and I feel like children get the brunt of that, at least more than adults can maybe get in a car and leave and